From Inga in Canada, how has the Galactic Federation interacted with governments since the late 1990s? In what form is the Galactic Federation regularly visiting Earth? In physical form themselves, or through their Earth allies, or through the Agarthans? Okay, it's a good question. Let's break it down into parts and answer it. First of all, the Galactic Federation began acting in really the early 1990s with governments, and what they were sending were liaisons, and these liaisons were basically working with a security force, and the security force basically would set up what's called a security perimeter. It was mainly a force field, so don't think this is Star Wars. And what they were doing is coming before major cabinets or major world leaders or people who were presidents of whatever country they were dealing with. They dealt with just about every major independent nation on the planet. And what they began doing first was very regularly visiting people and giving a, you might say, a hands up, a heads up, full disclosure of what was going on, and asking them to go forth and basically work toward bringing the light, changing the energies of our planet. Now, in the late 1990s, this shifted when our Earth allies were finally contacted and agreements were made with them in 1998. Then things changed. What happened then was, instead of going down maybe every 2 months, maybe every 6 months, they started doing monthly visitations to major governments because they had more liaisons to deal with this, with the same procedure that I just mentioned about the security, and having long talks. And these talks would involve major military, diplomatic, and regular governmental heads of state. And the problem they ran into immediately was these governments did not fully understand what was going on, and some of them were very worried, especially like the United States and the British governments and the French governments and a few others that wanted a little bit more information and did not feel very secure about this. So the result was they began increasing these visits and trying to put a little more pressure on them to do what they needed to do. So then it became they were meeting with the various liaisons and these heads of government and these cabinets and explaining what they were going to do, putting basic deadline dates down and telling them that they had to do something. And so now we've reached the end of what they call the first cycle, which is the end of the decade, and we're at the start of this 2010 decade. Now we have to understand 2010 decade is the decade for contact, according to everything they've told me. They put governments basically on notice that this is going to be happening at some time when the energies are right for it, and that if they get too aggressive and try to figure out ways to mess around basically with the Galactic Federation, that the date would be put forward instead of backwards. So the result has been that we have found major governments, like the U.S. government especially, working very, 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 very hard to be aggressive. They put things in space. They've sent up craft to fight Galactic Federation ships. Galactic Federation ships have stayed away from destroying craft, but unfortunately, when it gets too serious, they do not back down. So there have been some very secret government projects that have lost people. The thing that has to be understood with all of this is that what we are doing here is preparing for contact. And the people who represent these governments, a lot of them cabal-oriented governments, the dark cabal has to be told that these shenanigans cannot keep on going and that contact is getting closer and closer. So that's what I can say about that. And of course, the Agarthans are involved in it.